Hello students, let's get back to our chapter 5 of the supplementary reading, and that's The Happy Prince, written by Oscar Wilde. We have already seen the half of the lesson, and we have realized that how a little swallow who was going to Egypt and who waited for a shelter for the night at the foot of the statue has been responding to the needs of the prince in order to help the different people. And so, let's continue. We saw the prince has been giving the precious stones of his statue to the swallow, so that swallow may go and help the needy and the poor families who are going through struggle. So let's continue what's happening the next. Now, we saw yesterday that the swallow had gone and given the precious stone to a lady and who had her son dying with fever. Now, let's see whom shall he go to. When the moon rose, he flew back to the happy prince. "Have you any commissions for Egypt?" he cried. "I am just starting." Who says that, students? The swallow says. Now swallow doesn't want to remain because that place will be cooler, and Egypt, it will be little warmer weather, it will be hot sun, and so swallow will be able to survive. Its companions have gone ahead. "Swallow, swallow, little swallow," said the prince, "will you stay with me one night longer?" So again the prince is requesting the swallow. "Swallow, swallow," said the prince, "will you stay with me one night longer?" "I am waited for in Egypt," answered the swallow. So the swallow is saying, "You know that I am waiting for the Egypt. I am going there. My companions have gone and I need to reach." "Swallow, swallow, a little swallow," said the prince, "far away across the city, I see a young man in a garret. He is leaning over a desk covered with papers, and in the glass by his side there is a bunch of withered violets. His hair is brown and crisp, and his lips are red as a pomegranate, and he has large and dreamy eyes. He is trying to finish a play for the director of the theater, but he is too cold to write any more. There is no fire in the grate, and hunger has made him faint." So students, what is he saying now? He says that there is one more person who is in need of my help. And what is he? And what is he, student? It's said over here. But before that he says that far away across the city I see a young man in a garret. What is a garret over here, students? Garret is just like an attic. And so there is a person who is leaning over the desk covered with papers. So many papers are there. And in his glass, and in the glass by his side, there is a bunch of withered violets. And what has happened? His hair is brown and crisp. Color of the hair is brown and they are crisp. It is little hard. And his lips are red as a pomegranate. He has a large and dreamy eyes. He has a spark. He wants to become something in life. He is trying to finish a play for the director of the theater. But why is he not able to complete, students? Because he is too cold to write anymore. Students, you know, when you are due to winter, when you are due to cold, when your hands are too cold, you are not able to sometimes hold your pen. And so same thing has happened to this person. And there is no fire in the garret. The garret is a fireplace where they would keep it to themselves, like just like an heater and all. They would have fireplace, so they are kept warmer. And hunger has made him faint. So this prince was able to see this person who was a playwright. He used to write the plays. "I will wait with you one night longer," said the swallow, who really had a good heart. He asked if he should take another ruby to the young playwright. "Alas, I have no ruby," said the prince. "My eyes are all that I have left." So the swallow is telling, "Do you still have another ruby, a precious stone, maybe ruby or a sapphire? I can take it to the playwright, to that young playwright. I don't mind spending one more night with you," because the happy prince was doing some good work. And so what is the happy prince says? "Alas, I have no ruby now." He is running short of rubies now. All that the precious stones what he had, he has already given away. So then what is he saying? My eyes are all that I have left. There is no precious stone in my sword or anything. But what I have is my eyes. They are made of rare sapphires. Sapphires is, again we saw that blue precious stone which were brought out of India 1,000 years ago. So he says, from where were the sapphires brought? They were brought from India. And how many years ago? Some 1,000 years ago they were brought. He ordered the swallow to pluck out one of them and take it to the playwright. So what is he saying? There I have 2 eyes. So you take one and go and give it to the playwright. I don't mind, even though I become blind. He will sell it to the jeweler and buy firewood and finish his play, he said. So what he will do, once he has a precious stone, what he will do, he will sell to the jeweler and he will get a lot of money. Then he will be able to buy that fireplace for him, as well as he will be able to finish his play because he will be kept warm. Dear prince, said the swallow, I cannot do that. And he began to weep. So what is he saying? I cannot do that. What you are saying, I am not able to do that. And he starts crying, weeping, he is crying. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, do as I command you. So what is the prince saying? Swallow, little swallow, you just do what I am telling you, what I am commanding you. You be obedient to me. I don't mind, even though my eyes are plucked off. And so the swallow plucked out the prince's eye and flew away to the young man's garret. It was easy enough to get in, as there was a hole in the roof. Through this he darted and came into the room. So what is the students? Already the swallow is going to that young man's, to that playwright's house. And why is he going? He is going to help the playwright with the precious stone. And what type of stone he was taking, students? He was taking the precious stone from the eye of the prince. And so it was easy for him to enter into the garret. Why, students? Because there was a hole in the roof. And how much place does the bird require, students? So bird could easily pass through. And through this he darted. What is the meaning of darted, students, over here? The meaning of darted over here is he ran. He ran through that hole. The young man had his head buried in his hands, so he did not hear the flutter of the bird's wings. And when he looked up, he found the beautiful sapphire lying on the withered violets. So students, what is he saying? He says that the young man, he had buried his head into his hands. Why? Why does he say? Because the young man must be thinking what to do, how to go about. And so therefore, what he was doing, he was thinking. He was not able to hear the fluttering of the wings, fluttering of the swallow's wings. And so when he looks up, after, he must have felt something. So he was not able to hear the bird's wings fluttering. But then later on, when he looked up, he found a beautiful sapphire, the blue precious stone, lying on the withered violets. Violets could be the flowers over here. And they were withered, they were faded away, they were dried already. I am beginning to be appreciated, he cried. This is from some great admirer. Now I can finish my play. And he looked quite happy. So who says these words, students? These words are of the playwright, the young playwright, who says that I am beginning to be appreciated. Somebody is admiring my talents, and therefore someone has tried to help me in this way. The next day the swallow flew down to the harbor. He sat on the mast of a large vessel and watched the sailor working. What is the meaning of a harbor, student? What is the meaning of a harbor, students? A harbor is a port where the ships were kept all together, and vessel is a ship. So what is he doing? He says that next day the swallow flew down to the harbor. He sat on the mast of a large vessel and watched the sailors working. I am going to Egypt, cried the swallow, but nobody minded. And when the moon rose, he flew back to the happy prince. So the swallow, after giving the precious stone to the playwright, flew towards the harbor where the vessels were, and he sits on the mast. he talks to himself, whatever it is, now I will be going to Egypt. He is happy, the swallow, little swallow is happy to go, but no one pays attention to this little swallow. So that when the moon rose, he flew back to the happy prince. He goes back to the happy prince to bid a goodbye, to say bye-bye to him. I have come to bid a goodbye. He cried. Who is he? The swallow cried out, saying that I have come to bid you goodbye. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, will you not stay with me one night longer? Will you not stay with me one night longer? So who is demanding that? The prince is once again telling the swallow, you want to go to Egypt, but will you stay one more night with me? It is winter, answered the swallow, and the snow will soon be here. In Egypt, the sun is warm on the green palm trees, and the crocodiles lie in the mud and look lazily about them. So what is the swallow says? Swallow says that, see, it is winter here and it will be too cold for me. Whereas in Egypt, the sun is warm and on the green palm trees. And so the crocodiles lie in the mud and they look lazily about them as if they have no other work to do. So the swallow wants to go. In the square below, said the happy prince, there stands a little match girl. So what is the prince says? Prince is once again requesting the swallow to stay for one more night. And what does he say? In the square below, said the happy prince, there stands a little match girl. She has let her matches fall in the gutter, and they are all spoiled. Naturally, students, when the match works, when it falls in the gutter, what can remain? It is useless. Her father will beat her if she does not bring some money home. So her father will beat her if she fails to carry some money to home. And she is crying. She has no shoes or stockings, and her little head is bare. So what is this man says? What is this prince says? He says she has no money to buy even shoes or stockings, and if she doesn't go, her father will beat her. And what happens? Her little head also is bare. It's without any cover. It's without any veil, and she must be really feeling very cold. Pluck out my other eye and give it to her, and her father will not beat her. So please take one more eye from here and give to that little girl, so that she will be happy and her father will not beat her, because when she takes that to home, she will be happy. But then, do you think the swallow will be happy? No, not at all. Swallow won't be happy at all. I will stay with you one night longer, said the swallow, but I cannot pluck out your eye. You would be quite blind then. So what does the swallow say? I just cannot do this cruelty to you. I just cannot pluck out one more eye. Otherwise, if I pluck out this eye, you will be totally blind. I just cannot do that. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince. Do as I command you. Please do whatever I tell you. Please pluck that eye. I don't mind becoming a blind as long as I am able to help someone. So he plucked out the prince's other eye and darted down with it. So once again he takes another precious stone and he just runs away with the precious stone. Where does he go? Where does the swallow go? He swooped past the match girl and slipped the jewel into the palm of her hand. So he goes running swiftly. The swallow goes and gives into the hands of he slips the jewel. He tries to put it into the hands of the little girl. And then what happens? Then what happens? This little girl is very happy. Where does he give? He gives in the palm of her hand. What a lovely bit of glass, cried the little girl, and she ran home laughing. So what is she saying? What a lovely bit of glass. It seems to be something different than what she has ever seen. And she goes happily to the father. She goes happily laughing home. Then the swallow came back to the prince. You are blind now, he said, so I will stay with you always. See, swallow is feeling very bad for the prince. And what does he say? You are blind now. I just cannot leave you like that. So I will always stay with you. Whatever you tell, whatever your demands are, I will fulfill them. "No, little swallow," said the poor prince, "you must go away to Egypt." So now this prince doesn't want the swallow to remain here because of the prince. Prince doesn't want for his sake to swallow the swallow to suffer. So what does the poor prince say? He says that you must go away to Egypt. Here it will be winter, it will be very cold. "No, I will stay with you always," said the swallow, and he slept at the prince's feet. So the swallow has made a decision to remain with the prince, and the little swallow goes to sleep at the feet of the prince. All the next day, then what happens, students? All the next day, he sat on the prince's shoulder and told him stories of what he had seen in strange lands. So now the princess, both the eyes have gone. Prince is not able to see as the prince is blind. Who is telling the stories? This little bird. This little bird is telling all the stories, all that is happening in the city. So what does the swallow say? All that is happening in the strange lands, because it is the land which was unknown to the little swallow. "Dear little swallow," said the prince, "you tell me of marvelous things, but one more marvelous than anything is the suffering of men and women. There is no mystery so great as misery. Fly over my city, little swallow, and tell me what you see there." So what does he say? What he says? Misery. What is the meaning of a misery? It is something, a sorrow that we can see. So you fly over there and tell me all that is happening in the city, and you come back and tell me whatever you see there. So the swallow flew over the great city and saw the rich making merry in their beautiful houses. Of course, who suffer, students? The poor people. The poor people, they suffer. They go through a lot of suffering, men and women. And the mystery is so great. It is something that as a misery you are not able to understand sometimes. So then what happens? Then he says that the little swallow fly over the great city, and what does he say? The swallow says that the rich making merry, they are very happy in their beautiful houses, while the beggars were sitting at the gates. He flew into dark lanes and saw the white faces of starving children looking out listlessly at the black streets. Under the archway of the bridge, two little boys were lying in each other's arms to try to keep themselves warm. So what happens? He sees all this misery. What does he see? He sees that some white faces that are pale. They have no enough blood. They are starving children. They are very hungry, and they are looking listlessly at the black streets. They are looking at the black streets. And what is happening? Under the archway of a bridge, two little boys were lying on each other's arms. They try to keep themselves warm. "How hungry we are," they said. "You must not lie here," shouted the watchman, and they wandered out into the rain. So even the watchman does not allow them to keep them there. So he says, "You must," how hungry we are. Who says that? How hungry we are? These little children. But watchman shouts and says that you must not lie here. Get out from here. Then he flew back and told the prince what he had seen. Who flew back, student? The little swallow, and goes to tell the little prince all the misery and all that was happening in that little city. Whatever he sees, he flew back to tell all that to the prince. Students, we will stop over here, and one more part of this lesson we will see another time. Okay? So we are going to stop over here. I'll be sending you some questions today. Please answer them and do your homework.